Welcome to the Survivalist Podcast with Mark Buhali, Doc Montana, and Matt Gould. In each episode of the Survivalist Podcast, we look at different events and catastrophes that could happen to you. Then we give you the knowledge, resources, and recommendations you need to survive. The Survivalist Podcast is brought to you by Forge Survival Supply.
Find peace of mind for your family at Forge Survival Supply. Founded by United States Marine Corps veterans, Forge is the premier destination for quality American-made survival and emergency preparedness products. Freeze-dried foods, water filtration, fire starters, fully equipped bug-out bags. Find everything your family needs to stay safe, protected, and nourished during times of uncertainty at ForgeSurvivalSupply.com. As a listener of this program, Forge Survival Supply would like to give you an additional 10% savings. That's right, an additional 10% off your entire order, plus free shipping by entering discount code SURVIVOR at checkout. That's ForgeSurvivalSupply.com and use discount code SURVIVOR.
This podcast is sponsored by Epic Water Bottles and Pitchers. Every year, millions of Americans get sick from drinking contaminated water. Epic water filters remove chlorine, heavy metals, chemicals, industrial pollutants, pesticides and herbicides, iodine, and microbiologicals from your water. All of this is done with BPA-free, recyclable bottles and pitchers that are made in the USA. So keep your family safe and healthy with Epic Water. You can use the promo code WATER at epicwaterfilters.com for 10% off your order there. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Survivalist Podcast. This is episode 20. I'm Matt Gould. I'm here with Doc Montana, as usual, and Mark Buhali's not able to make it this time. Hi, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am great. And our guest last week was so good, Tim MacWelch, that we brought him on again. Hey, Tim. How are you?
Good, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Very well.
You should also check out episode 19, which features Tim talking about his book, How to Survive Anything. Tim is the founder and chief instructor of a school called Advanced Survival Training. He's been the most trusted source for survival training in the Mid-Atlantic since he opened that business in 1997. Tim published a series of survival manuals for Outdoor Life magazine. The first three were New York Times best-selling titles: The Hunting and Gathering Survival Manual, The Natural Disaster Survival Handbook, How to Survive Anything, and How to Survive Off-Grid. Sorry, How to Survive Off the Grid. To my tongue-tied today, but anyway, this week...
Your tongue's going off the grid.
Yeah, I know. So this week, we decided we're going to do survival hacks. We've known that Tim is an expert at wilderness survival and many other things, and so survival hacks, I would say, are tips and tricks that you didn't know that are easy to digest in the world of survival. And we're going to have a tip, a hack from Doc and from Tim for each of 5 categories: security, defense, cooking and fire, shelter, and an X factor. And we're going to talk about security first. So Tim, since you're our special guest, tell us about your survival hack for security.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So as far as security goes, this is such a broad topic, as are all the other topics that we're going to address today. And security means different things to different people, and of course, it means different things in different situations. So the hack I have for you today is one that maybe a lot of us can do in the post-Christmas world of getting new gifts. You know, if maybe a friend or a loved one gave you a practical gift for Christmas, like a new wallet. And this can be, you know, for the guys or for the gals. You know, if you've got some kind of new wallet and you still have your old one, if you haven't chucked that in the garbage can yet, save it. So save your old wallet, and next time you go into the big city, have your new wallet with all your important stuff in it, and have that in a secure location on your person. You know, a pocket that's not easily dipped into, so that you're not pickpocketed. You know, if you're carrying a wallet in a purse, keep the purse zipped up, and you know, all these types of things can discourage just the average, you know, pickpocket. But carry that drop wallet. You could put $1 or $2 in it, and make sure part of those dollars are hanging out of the wallet, and make sure you've cleaned out everything with all your personal identification from that wallet. So, for example, if you got like a fake plastic credit card in your new wallet, you can tuck it into your drop wallet. And then if someone tries to mug you, or you think somebody's following you and they have, ill intent, you can chuck that wallet and take off running. Hopefully that's what they were after. And then when they get this wallet with a couple bucks in it, and even if they see it sail by their head, if you can throw it past them, they might spot that color and shape of the credit card. They might spot the actual currency that's in there, and that's what they're after. They're after credit cards and cash. So they see that go whizzing by their head, and you take off running, and while they're chasing after the wallet, you can make your speedy getaway.
I like that. You could stuff it with the old receipts and stuff like that too, if you want, right? To give it some heft.
Sure. Yeah. And if you want to be really paranoid, I like to pick up other people's receipts in parking lots because they don't have anything to do with me. And I shove them in drop wallets and things like that. But yeah, you bet. Make it look as real as possible. Take those fake pictures from your new wallet of some random family and shove them in the drop wallet and just make it look right. And that way, if the wallet flops open, while it's flying through the air, just that split second where someone sees, oh yeah, there is stuff in it. That's gonna help you bait the hook.
Yeah, that is a great tip. Really fun and useful, not just fun. And then that situation, of course, would not be fun if you were being robbed, being mugged, held up.
No.
We hope that doesn't happen to you. Okay, Doc, security. What's your security hack?
Well, let me add on Tim's before I start. I've got some of those extra wallet and handbag things. I pick them up at the Goodwill. And then a few other additions I put in them, like business cards for the police department or the FBI.
Really?
That's awesome. That might add, and they aren't maybe not come back after you. If they quickly open it and maybe see that. Yeah, I've actually done that. In big, FBI logoed business card from a friend of mine who was in the FBI. I just got a few extras and stuck those in there to take it to a little bit different level. But yeah, so I don't go through wallets very fast, but I do pick them up occasionally at the Goodwill, decent ones, especially after Christmas.
Yeah,
good
that's
source
a good
for
tip.
them.
And if anyone wants to know about Goodwill prepping, they should check out our episode of a few ago where we did a whole episode about that. Bargain preps.
Yeah. So my security hacks are built on personal experience of only having real climbing gear as the stuff that's attached to your pack. A lot of people carry or clip carabiners onto things. And if you look close, the carabiners say not for climbing. They blow apart at, a couple 100 pounds or something. And they cost almost as much as a real carabiner, the little aluminum snap links. I see no reason not to have something that you pretty much couldn't tow a car with. And that's the same for cord, rope, webbing, any of the materials you might have with you. People point at paracord as the savior, but you're not going to hang on a chunk of paracord for very long. And many times when you absolutely need something for a rescue or to anchor yourself or to secure your equipment for lowering it or raising it or something, you need real gear, not what I kind of call the gimlock mentality, these little plastic clips that blow apart, in case there's an emergency and you're hung up on a cactus running from that angry mob. No, you want stuff that actually works. So my hack is make sure everything is real, not, a keyring carabiner, but a real live one. And it seems almost every bug out bag video I watch, somebody just goes ahead and clips on some junky carabiner that they found somewhere or got free when they opened their savings account or whatever. Get rid of those. Totally get rid of those.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I wouldn't have thought of that. I actually thought paracord was the gold standard for survivalists to always have that. But you're saying you have something that can support more weight.
Yeah, it's surprising, but a lot of people, like Tim mentioned in a previous episode, they may not know how to tie a knot. They have an app on their phone for it, but literally you get those skills down and, you can climb mountains. That's what it's all about. rescue situations where you have to lower injured people or secure injured people or haul up gear. You need real knots with real equipment that you can count on. And so my whole feeling is just don't even keep that stuff. Get rid of it so it doesn't accidentally wind up in your kit, and then spend a couple of bucks and get a brand new real live carabiner. You can get them at the hardware store now. Real ones.
I think that's a great tip. It doesn't matter if you use the ones with the quick, the part that goes in, right? It could be like the quick one or the ones you screw together, right? I don't think that. Does that matter?
The issue, going in the weeds here, I actually working on an article, explaining all this. The ones that have a lock are designed for a shock or vibration, so they don't open under some kind of a punch. That's not a huge concern of mine because it can also fail or clog with sand. A lot of the ones that have it's called a screw gate. They actually have a locking mechanism that covers the ability of the carabiner to open by a threaded material or threaded gate. And the problem there is if you get sand in those or ice or anything else, you might not be able to open them. The other thing is a lot of the newer designs don't have a hook on the carabiner where the gate interfaces. They have some other design that's smooth. I would definitely get those because then they can slide in and out of webbing or ropes or pockets or anything without hooking. And that hook is a kind of a mess because it'll catch and really have a lot of strength when you're trying to pull the carabiner out.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And then the next category is defense.
So my defense hack are triathlon or open water swim goggles. And I have those both for triathlons and open water swimming, but also because you can wear them in smoky environments. You can wear them around noxious fumes. You can wear them, obviously, in high sand blowing or wind blowing areas, and it allows you to do things that you can't do with naked eyes or glasses. So let's say you were in a situation in a town, tear gas was thrown. Obviously you're going to breathe the tear gas, but you can put goggles on, tight-fitting, watertight goggles, and buy yourself more time. Or if you're around smoke, as I don't want to go into Tim's, but I've stood in campfire smoke. In the smoke, just bellowing over me wearing goggles to get out of mosquitoes.
So it's defense against smoke, dust, blowing sand. And I noticed you mentioned that you should get triathlon or open water swim goggles. Tell me about what the difference is.
They're a lot bigger and they fit over a larger region of your eye. So they give you better peripheral vision, not the tunnel vision of regular swim goggles. They fit a larger range of people because they're like a small, not a diving goggle, but like a small swimming pool goggle, except they're made much better. You can swim around a lot easier, but you can also wear them and see, your feet and the sky and everything else. And that makes a big difference. The other thing, the strap is usually a lot more easily adjustable than regular swim goggles, and they have a bigger suction area. So I think they work better. It's for getting kicked in the head while you're swimming in the ocean.
That clears it up. Thank you. It's a great tip. Tim, tell me about your defense hack.
One of the things I have to defend against for most of the year when I'm teaching classes out in the woods is mosquitoes. Now that people in America are starting to be aware of the possibility of having Zika virus in different areas. People are even more paranoid about mosquitoes than they've ever been before. We're really blessed here in the United States. We don't have to worry so much about malaria and different things like that, dengue fever, other mosquito-borne diseases, but no mosquito bite is comfortable. Let's just face facts. Nobody wants to get bitten. You get the big itchy bump. It's just a nightmare, especially if you have a lot of those all over your body. So my hack is to prevent the mosquito bite, and Doc touched on this already with smoke as our defense against mosquitoes. So one of the ones that I like to grab, and this is something that people can do coast to coast, is to look for the swamp-loving plant cattail. So if you don't know your plants, you need to learn your plants. You can't be a survivalist and not know your plants. So the cattail is this tall grass-like plant that grows in wet, swampy areas, ditches, lowland places, full sunlight. And it's got a seed head on it that looks like a dark brown corn dog. It literally looks like a corn dog from the county fair. And that brown seed head is full of these little fluffy seeds, which are outstanding tinder, by the way. So if you ever need to light a fire with a spark rod or, some other method and you need really good tinder, rip that thing apart and use a little bit of that fluff for your tinder. But I like to leave the heads intact to make smoke. And what I'll do is I'll just put the tip of that cattail head in the fire and get it smoldering. And then it won't usually fall apart on me. It will just smolder. And I can even leave it on the stalk, leave a couple feet of cattail stalk on that head and carve a point on the end of the stalk, and I can stick it in soft ground. So if I'm in a swampy area and the ground is muddy, it's easy to carve a point on that stalk and stick it in the ground. And I'll use several of those if I need to. And those are my bug repelling torches, if you want to call it a torch. There's no flames coming off the end of it, but it just sits there and smolders. And you may get 15 or 20 minutes on a good-sized cattail head. And then for those that don't have cattails or don't want to do that, a lot of fishermen swear by cigar smoking. A lot of people will sit out in a boat, and when the little midges come out and the no-see-ums and all the mosquitoes and all the nasty other little biting bugs, you just puff on a big old stogie and wreath yourself in smoke and work on your smoke rings and just keep puffing away on that thing, and that will help to get rid of the bugs.
Those are both great tips. I can remember, so I lived down by you in Washington, D.C. when I worked at Discovery Channel, and I can remember just going out in the backyard in the middle of summer was miserable because of the gnats and the mosquitoes that were so prevalent. And I think there's huge sections of the country that's like that. So mosquitoes are definitely an issue. Even for, we talk about if you're in a survival situation, you want to have some joy in your life still, right? You don't want it to be all grind. So keeping the mosquitoes away from you is really, really important.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, Matt. Just because it's survival doesn't mean every single thing has to suck. You can at least get away from the bugs and have some little rays of sunshine piercing through your gloomy debacle that you're in.
Yeah, and what I like also about the cattails, places where cattails grow are places where there's a lot of mosquitoes, right?
Yeah, isn't that funny? Kind of works out that way. The swampier areas are better breeding grounds for mosquitoes, and it's almost like nature's trying to hand you a little bonus there. Yeah, nature's trying to hand us a hack. That's right.
You mentioned that before, Tim, when we were talking about acorns, and it's like, well, that's nature trying to feed you, and here's nature trying to keep the mosquitoes away from you. It's very, I don't know, it's very interesting to me.
Well, going on what Matt was saying, the idea of finding that comfort. I've heard that mosquitoes, or at least that particular tone that their wings make, I don't know if it's like a middle C or something, but it actually has a similar sound to a baby crying or something, which is one of those sounds that humans can't ignore. It will grate on you till you go insane or you deal with it. And then, so if that's why the mosquito buzzing around your tent, it's total road rage. You're just ready to, set the tent on fire. You're so angry. So I can see this is not just a mosquito bite. This is just total sanity that you're trying to maintain.
I think you're right. I've heard, I don't know if it's urban legend but I've heard that sometimes moose up in Alaska will literally kill themselves to get away from the mosquitoes because they get driven so insane by them.
How does the moose kill itself?
Like jumps in the ocean and drowns.
Oh.
Have you never heard that?
I haven't, but I felt like killing myself because of mosquitoes before, so I could imagine a moose would feel the same.
Yeah, I've been there too. The deep woods of New England, like up around Maine in the summertime, those bugs are trying to make up for the fact that they only have like 1 month of summer, and if you're there in that month, they just come out of the woods and the shady places as a cloud, and they try to pick you up and carry you back to their lair so they can drink all your blood. Yeah, I could totally believe a moose, offing himself, just walking out in traffic and sticking his head under a semi, because it is just maddening, absolutely maddening.
Yeah, so those are two great hacks there. And so let's move on to cooking and fire. That's a category for hacks. Doc, tell us about your cooking and fire hack.
Well, I let's have Tim go first, because I'm going to step on his original hack again.
Well, maybe I want to change mine now. I don't want to get stepped on.
Okay.
But, no. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a bonus one. So my hack for fire starting is to use pencils and pens, and these are common, ubiquitous, everyday, mundane items that everybody's got tucked behind their ear, or rolling around in their glove box in the car, or hanging out in your purse, or just shoved in your pocket protector, or whatever you're rocking. And so your pencil, being made of wood, could be whittled with any sharp knife-like implement, either scraped or whittled, to create a fuzz stick. Now, a fuzz stick is a fire helper. Basically, we're carving little shavings on a stick, but leaving them attached so that it almost looks like a little Christmas tree, for lack of a better explanation. It's so hard to explain very visual things in words only for the listeners here.
Yeah.
But if you can imagine taking little shavings off of a pencil, but not cutting them off completely, just leaving them attached, and then your whole pencil is covered in shaggy shavings, and this is something that you could light easily with a match or a lighter. Let's say you're trying to light a fire in wet weather. Your twigs and your kindling that you've gathered are kind of damp. You need that little edge to get you over the hump. And so that's the pencil. We're actually going to burn it up as fuel. And if you happen to have a Sharpie, if that's your pen of choice, again, if you have an open flame from matches or lighters, you can light the felt tip of the Sharpie, and the alcohol and the other types of solvents that are in there carrying the ink in a Sharpie, those are flammable. So the tip of your Sharpie will burn almost like a little candle, almost like a miniature torch. And it'll burn that way for a few minutes if it's a brand new Sharpie. And you can move that around and light different spots on your fire lay, or just, put the thing in the heart of your fire lay and leave it, and just let it all burn up. But that's a terminal use for a Sharpie. Don't expect that you can blow the flame out and write a message for help on a rock after you've lit it on fire. Once you've burned it, it has changed the felt tip, and it's done for. It won't write ever again.
Very good tip. Very good tip. Doc, what about you?
Well, to put a pun on this, a finer point, those were actually two that I was going to do, but except I was going to take the pencil one step further and actually suggest you use Home Depot carpentry pencils. And that's what I carry. That's what I have all over the place. They're for three main reasons. One is they are made of wood, and surprisingly, a large number of pencils these days are not made of wood. Go ahead and stick a lighter on them, and they melt, or they bend, or they start bubbling, because they're made of some other, man-made material. They're also a lot stronger. So when you're carving on them, they aren't going to snap or shatter or break in your pocket. And the third main reason is they're bright orange. So you can easily find them. And I tend to like bright orange stuff in my kit. They sell, last time I bought some, they were about 18 cents, or you can buy them in packs of 10, scatter them all over the place. And they work very well as a pencil, and they are designed to be sharpened with a knife. Whereas other pencils, you better have your fine motor skill down, especially if you've got your foot-long survival blade, because you'll just cut your knife or cut your pencils in half. But anyway, that's a great little piece of wood that you can always have and write with.
Yeah, that's good. Is a carpenter pencil the same as a grease pencil?
No, totally different. A carpenter pencil is actually 1/2 inch wide by 1/4 inch thick, and then has a large rectangular piece of graphite, or the thing we call the lead, inside it. So you can sharpen it really crudely, use it as a measuring instrument. Tim, were you going to add something?
I love how you called out the orange color. I really want to emphasize that for your listening audience there. You don't want black or gray or olive drab survival gear, and you sure don't want camouflage survival gear. You set it down, turn around 3 times, and it's gone. You can't find it anymore. I had a camouflage Zippo lighter once for about 15 minutes out in the woods. I had a camouflage handle buck knife once for about a day until it, I set it down and I turn around and it's gone. You want to have high visibility on all of your important gear so that you can find it in the event of some kind of stressful situation. You don't have time for an Easter egg hunt, when you've only got seconds to react in some cases.
Piggyback on that theme, the same is true, like I mentioned in my survival or my security hack, is the real carabiners. Anytime you have something that connects to something else, you connect it. So many times I would be out and people would unhook a carabiner and set it on the ground. That's essentially like that. It's probably with Tim's buck knife now. I don't know where it is. Always clip stuff back together, close zippers, snap the Fastex buckles so you don't step on them and break them. I mean, literally, it's maintaining that connection with your items, and that's where I see orange is critical. I notice it. In fact, I had a SOG Tomahawk with a camo handle, and I actually hung it on a tree just right there and forgot about it. Just, scanned the area and walked away and had to go back and get it. It was still there. Of course, nobody else could see it, but it was so easy.
Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, the third hack, or
is there
other
orange
hack
paint you can get? What? Can you buy like bright orange, neon orange paint?
Sure. To
put on stuff? You can.
Oh, yeah, and you can use orange duct tape, although I haven't found any that really sticks all that well. And you can also get a plastic coat in bright orange that you can dip items into, and then it forms, like on the handles of pliers and stuff like that, a plastic coating, so you can orange up things. If I can't, I often use orange paracord and just tie in. So if you look at my pictures in a lot of my articles, you'll see orange paracord on zipper pulls and stuff like that. I had another, since we overlapped on the pencils, and is if you can get a coffee can and even just an old-fashioned can opener, not to take the lid off, but that punches a little triangular hole in for the old flat-top cans. You can literally just make a few punches into a coffee can, and you can make a wood stove that actually works fairly well. If you have the opening on the top, because you're setting a pan on it, you're going to want ventilation holes in the bottom and around the top by the pan. Or you could even turn the whole coffee can upside down, so now you've got the flat base of the can on the top, and you can actually use that as a cooking surface. So you can just throw your whatever on top of that. It's like a griddle, and that's just with a coffee can. Works quite well. You can adjust the holes as needed for the amount of air and the size of the sticks. They are very hungry, so you have to have a pile of sticks ready to go. They go through them fast, but I have, a titanium wood stove. Wrote a review on one of those. Absolutely love it, but it's $60 and a little fragile compared to a coffee can, but definitely smaller.
Yeah, it's a great tip.
If you beat up your coffee can or lose it in the woods or something, you're not going to cry. It was, pretty much a free item. It's trash. But yeah, I'd be scared to buy a $60 camping stove, that just burns sticks and doesn't do anything else, and then I leave it somewhere or lose it or whatever. Or it's like you said, it's kind of fragile. You might bend it all up or something.
Yeah, step on it when it's not burning.
I love that. I saw a hack yesterday that I will share with you, even though it's not technically a survival hack. I was watching an old episode of Good Eats with Alton Brown. I don't know if you ever saw that show on the Food Network. It's not on anymore, but he was wanting to make a smoker, but he didn't want to pay the price for a smoker. So he got a terracotta pot, and he got a hot plate, and he put the hot plate in the bottom of the terracotta pot, and then a grate over the top. And some terracotta pots for plants, right? They have like a dome you can put over them for roses and things. So for about $40, he was able to build a really effective smoker. So
here we just use old refrigerators. Put a pipe in the top and throw wood in it underneath and go to town.
Refrigerators or ovens. You've got the rack already in it, and you leave it closed up and leave your food in there and smoke away.
This episode is brought to you by the Perry Blade Survival Knives, designed by SAS legend Mel Perry. For more information, visit perryblade.com. That's Perry, P-A-R-R-Y, blade.com.
I have a question for you. I wanted to do a hack, but I can't get it to work. I don't know if you've heard about this, where you pull the bullet and gunpowder out of a cartridge, make a little fire spot, and then put the primered shell in the gun and shoot it into your kind of gunpowder and fire prep area in order to ignite the fire. I've heard about this as a hack. I can't get it to work.
Les Stroud did that on one of the earlier episodes of Survivor Man, and I think the missing ingredient was a flammable bit of cloth that he had rammed down the barrel. So this is kind of like what our muzzle loading friends might be doing. So you'd put the powder, you pour the powder down the barrel, for a black powder rifle or pistol for that matter, and then put the wadding down in there. And I think it's legit. I've never tried it, but you'd have to shoot out some kind of cloth on fire, and then it might just be embers. So it would be like flint and steel. You'd have to have a really good tinder to scoop up that little ember and then blow it into flame. I don't think the gun is gonna fire out anything that's actually got flames on it, because I think the speed and the pressure might inhibit the flames. But I think you're barking up the right tree, Doc. I think we just need that one extra ingredient. Maybe a little cut off a strip of a bandana and put that down in there, ramrod that down in the bottom of the barrel.
I could just, how big? I mean, I could just stick it in the case before, because you have to manually load the case into the chamber. There's no bullet, so the ramp doesn't work, the feed ramp into the chamber.
Right. Yeah. Maybe you could go ahead and just keep the powder in the shell with some kind of little cloth plug, and then hopefully that's what's burning. That's what comes out the end of the barrel.
To me, that seems very advanced. I think you should be a very advanced survivalist before you try that.
Well, the other problem is it's more likely I'll have a lighter with me than two pairs of pliers to pull the bullets out.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and you don't. Hey, kids at home, don't get a pair of rocks and start beating on the bullet to try to open it up.
Don't use your teeth.
Not safe. Yeah, don't bite the bullet. You never want to bite the bullet.
Don't bite the bullet. Yeah, that's a good tip right there. Okay, let's move on to shelter. So we want to talk about shelter hacks. Who wants to go first?
Tim?
Sure. Yeah, if you insist. We had a little bit of a fun weekend this past weekend. Doc will laugh at the warm, balmy temperatures that I was enjoying, but it was in the teens and kind of windy here in the woods of Virginia. And that's pretty cold for us. That's cold for around here.
And most
cold.
People aren't. That counts as cold.
Yeah. Most people aren't, really acclimated to that. But I was working through some content for a new class, so we were kind of running a little beta class to test some different things, and we ended up building a teepee just really on the fly. That was not part of our plans for the day. But we constructed a tripod of tall poles, and they were like about 15 feet long. Some shorter ones were like maybe 12 feet long. and we built the typical teepee frame. It's a circular cone of sticks, and around that we wrapped and tied numerous tarps. And then once we got a fire going in there, we were just happy as clams. It was so warm in there, and the shape of a teepee lends itself really well to a fire because it creates its own draft. The top of the teepee actually acts as a chimney. That's not our shelter hack, but it's sort of like a bonus. Now, inside that teepee, some of the folks that were out there working with me weren't quite as well insulated as me. And when I say well insulated, I mean they weren't wearing 20 below zero Sorel boots and 5 layers of wool and a couple pounds overweight, et cetera, et cetera. I'm pretty well insulated when I go out there. But we did hot rocks and hot water bottles for additional warmth in the shelter. And this is something anybody can do anywhere, especially the hot water bottle. And if you remember, maybe you've got some older relatives and they had like a weird red rubber bottle, like almost like a hydration bladder, but they had that like 100 years ago. And this would be something that you'd fill up with really hot water, make sure it's sealed tightly so it doesn't leak. And you could put it inside your clothing. You could put it in your bedding. You could put it wherever you need to, and you could even walk around with this thing. So you could take a page from that and just use whatever bottle you have. So if you had a soda bottle, or if you had a Nalgene drinking water bottle, like a lot of people use for outdoor recreation, they'll have the 1 liter Nalgene bottle, or whatever container you have. If you fill that with really hot water, make sure the lid's on tight. You can put that in your clothing, and failing that, you can warm up a rock. Get it about 120 degrees, just so it's not going to burn your skin, and definitely nowhere near the temperature to melt synthetic fabric or light your natural fiber fabric on fire. But by supplementing your own heat that your body's putting off, you can stay much, much warmer. Every calorie of heat that those hot rocks and hot water bottles put through your skin into your tissues is a calorie of heat that you didn't have to generate by digesting and burning food. So it's in a way it's like you're eating more without eating more, because you're stealing calories of warmth from these inanimate objects. You're not having to eat more.
And we know from last week that survival equals calories.
That's right.
Yeah, that is a great tip. And I also saw your YouTube video about using heated rocks to purify water, right? To boil water.
Oh, you saw that? Good. Yeah.
I watched that too.
That is Outdoor Life.
It's shockingly effective.
It is, and if we think about the science behind it, it's really not that radical, because you're heating up a stone in a fire, and that stone may be 800 degrees. It may be 1,000 degrees. It may be over 1,000 degrees, just in an open campfire that does not have forced air. Now, if you had a forced air situation on a bed of coals, kind of like a blacksmith's forge, then we can get temperatures, up to 2,000 Fahrenheit, maybe even a little higher, just off of burning charcoal and burning pieces of wood, once you have that forced air. But just the normal open air campfire, let's say it gets a rock to 800 degrees. And when we drop that 800 degree rock in a bucket of cool water, the heat's going to transfer out of that rock into the water, and it wouldn't take that many rocks. If we're thinking about volume, like 1 quart of water versus an 8-ounce cup full of hot stones, it wouldn't take that much volume of 800 degree stones to get the water up to 200 degrees. Or in our case, we want to see bubbles, we want to see boiling, so 212 Fahrenheit. And it's just it's like sticking a red hot poker, in your mug of apple cider to do hot apple cider. This was an old colonial trick that people would do. You'd have your fire poker by the fireplace, and you just get the tip red hot, and you'd stick it in your drink, and it would go psh, and then in seconds your beverage is just scalding hot and maybe even too hot to drink. And then you got to let it cool back down. But, we can just do that with rocks. You do want to get your rocks from a dry location. Do not scoop up rocks out of the creek and try to put them in a fire to heat them up. There's a good chance they have moisture deep down inside the heart of the stones. And when that water turns to steam, it expands so much and so fast that it can cause the rock to explode violently. I think the record right now is rock shrapnel traveling 60 feet. And I have no idea what kind of velocity that achieved, but it's scary. It'd be very easy for somebody to get their eye put out or basically get sharp flakes of stone, shoved into their body when rocks explode in a fire. So you want to get rocks from a high, dry location before you try to put them in a fire.
Very good. Very good. Doc, shelter. We're talking about shelter. Yes, Doc.
My hack is more of a philosophy that to overbuild anything that deals with shelter or secure it in a way that is beyond the kind of the traditional. And the reason is that the shelter has to protect you from changing weather, and often the time that it is going to fail is going to be in the middle of the night, which is when you're probably your most vulnerable, or when the storm, the blizzard hits. So let's say you've got we'll start out with a tent. A lot of tents have guy lines that hold the fly down, and they have corner places that you can attach stakes or something. Well, I say put on bigger loops on those corners and on those guy lines so you can literally stick a log through to hold the tent down, and big rocks into, this is a good use for paracord, big rocks into the corners, and then even run cord over the top of the tent and then anchor that down as a way to keep the wind from blowing it down or the caving in the sides. It does increase the tripping hazard around the tent for both you and wildlife. But literally, I've come back to camps and my tent's the only one still standing. Why? Because it was totally circled with rocks on the skirt which I had on a fly. But then I also anchored down every corner, and this was a geodesic tent, so it actually had quite a few corners. And literally in the middle of the night when it's just howling out, you're really glad that you're bolted down. And when you get out of the tent, it's not going to blow away with all your gear, which I see as well. If you're building a tent out of...
That's the worst.
What?
Let me cut in 1 second, Doc. So my friend
Sure.
went beach camping, and he used the stakes that came with the tent, the little short aluminum stakes, which don't really hold in dry sand. And he came back to his campsite to check on something, and he watched his tent tumble out into the ocean like a beach ball. The wind just blew it, and it just rolled away, and it had his clothes, his wallet, his phone, everything in it. So, you're not kidding, Doc. Anchor that stuff down.
Yeah. If you make a lean-to or any kind of a shelter out of the natural stuff, same thing. And that may include putting a log on top of it, a big log that's way out of place, just massively overbuilt, simply to keep it from coming apart under a snow load or under a high winds or somebody crashing into it at night, or bears or whatever. And it's not a big step. It doesn't take that much more effort. But the danger of not doing it is losing your shelter, which is a danger. Mm-hmm. So my hack there is it's do it all, even if it's a beautiful sunny day, no chance of anything happening. You still bolt that thing down and then bolt it down again.
Yeah. Overkill is so underrated.
Great hack. Okay, last one, X Factor. So X Factor is just whatever comes to your mind that you think is one of your best hacks, I think, right? Why don't we start with Tim?
Oh, well, under that mantle, let me rethink this, because my best hack, X Factor was just, to me, a wild card, and I wrote down here, stop a toothache with tannic acid.
Forgive me. Let's say it's not your best hack. It's just a wild card. I love this
hack.
one.
What? No, I want to. But I want to give you my best. But let me think a minute. So while I'm thinking, I'll talk about something else. So that's the tannic acid for toothaches. Now, Adventure Medical Kits is a company that sells a lot of really cool gear and equipment, and they pre-make and pre-stock first aid kits for outdoor enthusiasts. And there's all different sizes of kits for all different types of applications. And they've got a little dental emergency kit. And in that kit, there's all the typical stuff. There's all kinds of little instruments and gizmos and dental floss and toothpicks. And I think they've got oil of cloves in there to numb a toothache. But they also have a single solitary black tea bag in the dental emergency kit from Adventure Medical Kits. And I knew exactly what it was right away, and I had a good laugh. And I wonder how few people out there know why that's in the kit. Is it so that you can have a nice cup of tea after your tooth gets fixed? Or maybe it's for the guy acting as the dentist, so he can have a bracing Earl Grey, while he's, trying to tie your tooth back together with some floss and rub some wax on it or something. But that tea bag is actually there so that you can get it wet and place it against your gum or directly against a tooth in the event that you have a toothache due to inflammation. So let's say you got a little particle of food stuck down under the gum line and you just can't get it out, and that sits there and festers and swells up. And so you moisten the tea bag, place it in your mouth between the cheek and gum, just like you'd be doing a dip, and you let it sit there until your tooth doesn't hurt anymore. And after a while, it will take the edge off, because tannic acid reduces swelling of any inflamed tissue. Now, the only thing it doesn't work on, tannic acid actually upsets your stomach and intestines. So we don't ever want to drink tannic acid in great quantities. And this is why some people can't have iced tea first thing in the morning. Your stomach is more sensitive to things like tannic acid right off the bat. I used to try to drink sweet tea for breakfast, and every time I do it, I would just feel nauseated afterwards. And it's the tannic acid. It's in tea, it's in coffee, it's in wine, it's in chocolate, it's in many, many things that we already eat. We can also get it from nature. Now, we talked about acorns last week. Acorns are a prime source of tannic acid, but you could also use oak bark. So the tree that gave us the acorns, we could chop off a little bit of the live bark and boil that in water, and it will turn dark reddish brown, and it'll look like tea, and it'll be bitter, and you could use that as a mouth rinse or put it on a cotton ball and hold that against the toothache. So that's kind of my wild card, wacky but true hack for dental trouble out in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to let Doc go next, and I'll try to think of something that might pass for my best hack ever while Doc is going.
Well, that was a great one. All right, Doc, let's hear it.
My X Factor hack is extra components to carry in your vehicle, and they are two things. One is a 12-volt compressor that can pump up a tire to whatever size tire it is that you need, depending on your vehicle, but also a tire repair kit that actually allows you to plug the hole so you can reinflate the tire. And if you think about spare tires, we usually have a life that, if you get a flat, you remember to go get it fixed. Well, what if you can't, or go into a defensive measure? What if you're trying to get away or outrun something? Somebody shoots out your tire. You can literally, with this kit, plug the hole and reinflate it. And if you're good at this, you can do that. You could do a bullet hole probably in 10 minutes and be back on the road. You don't have to take the tire off. You don't have to jack up the car. You just literally, with your tire repair kit, find the puncture, and that actually might be the most time-consuming part other than inflating it. Ream it out with your included reamer. Put in the vulcanized tire cords, as many as you think it needs. Bullet hole, a small one, might only be one cord, but you could put a handful in there and then inflate the tire and get on your way. You have to probably practice, but it's easy to find an old tire and just see how simple it is. And you buy a good kit. And you can buy kits starting under $10 to a decent one is about $40. And then for a compressor, anywhere from probably $35 to $100, depending on how big your tires are, because the compressors don't run that long without getting too hot. So if you have a big Jeep, you probably want a bigger compressor. Literally connect it to your battery and go. A lot of people carry these, obviously, when they're in the mountains or away from spares, especially in cactus areas. You literally might also not need to fix the tire. You might just need to keep pumping it up. Maybe you can drive 10 miles before it goes too flat again. And the last thing is you can drop your tire pressure on demand. You literally just let the air out of the tire for better traction in sand or snow or over rocks, but then you need to pump it back up later. So this is like the next step after, your bug out bag or your get home bag in your car, and then you got your tow straps and, tools and emergency repair stuff. Take it to the next level, spend, $80 to $100 and buy a compressor and a good tire repair kit. And they're invincible.
Yeah,
unless you break the bead or rip the tire to pieces.
That's a good tip. There's no way to pump up car tires manually, is there? Like without power?
A bicycle pump, you bet. If the bead is still connected, if it's a tubeless tire, you can pump it up with a bike pump. The problem is the volume difference. You may be pumping for 2 hours. Well, probably not, but a long time. But bike tires with bike pumps are much higher pressure than car tires. Car tires are running between 30 and 40 pounds per square inch, whereas bike tires, a mountain bike high end is 50 to 60. A road bike tire might break 100. So they're small cylinder, small compression or small diameter pumps, so they can pump at a higher pressure for a bike, but you're moving a small amount of air. So to pump up a car tire just takes forever, but definitely have a bike pump in at the minimum.
Very good. Very good tip.
I love your hack, Doc. I'm driving around on a self-plugged, self-pumped tire right now. It's something that a lot of people don't know about, and it really does work. I mean, you can do just as good a patch job as your favorite local automotive shop. And of course, maybe they don't maybe better. Yeah, they don't want you to hear that, but you're basically getting the same materials and doing the same process. I once watched a gentleman, and this was the first time I was exposed to the patch kit. A gentleman at a gas station asked me, "Hey, you look like you look like a handy guy," I think was the quote. Have you got a set of pliers I can borrow real quick? I've got to fix my tire. And I'm like, what? And how are pliers going to fix a tire? And he said, well, I've got a bolt stuck in my tire, and I can't get it out. I can't pull it out, so I need a pair of pliers. And he said, hey, if you can loan me the pliers, I'll show you how this works. So I was intrigued, and I went over there. Of course, this is how a lot of stories where guys get murdered start. Hey, stranger at the gas station, come here. I want to show you a neat trick. Let's just walk around back, and I'll shoot you and eat you and take your wallet. And well,
you could throw your dummy wallet at him.
Yeah. This guy had a bolt fatter than my thumb and 6 inches long stuck in his tire. I don't know what kind of giant, truck that came off of, or, whether somebody was hauling, big machine parts or something. But I was like, oh, my God, I saw this huge hunk of metal. I'm not kidding. The thing was the size of my thumb, and he pulled it out with the pliers. He took every one of the vulcanized cords in the repair kit. He folded them in half together and slopped them all up with glue to make a big bundle. And he shoved that in the giant hole. He let it set up for a couple minutes because it was such a giant plug. And he had stopped his vehicle next to the air pump at the gas station. And after the glue had gotten kind of tacky, he ran air in it and it pumped right up. And he thanked me and he drove away. I was just flabbergasted. I could see doing something like that on a nail, or maybe even a 22 hole. But good God, a bolt bigger than a hot dog. But he did it. They've got a gas tank patch product. So if somebody shot a hole in your tank, It'll work even when the tank is wet with gasoline. You just literally peel the sticky off the backing and slap it over the hole, and it'll
these
seal
don't care
up.
about water.
I can't beat that, Doc.
With the repair kits is you may want to buy an extra set of plugs, like you mentioned. If you've got enough plugs, you could probably build a tire out of plugs. Well, not really. But it's pretty amazing how big a hole or even a gash, a slice, even in a sidewall, you might be able to get yourself out. But you can buy plugs like another 50 or another 100 for $10. You probably want to get the quality stuff. And that's something I want to add about the kit. If you buy the $10 tire repair kit, you're getting pretty cheap stuff. And if you have a big tire, there's a chance you're going to break the reamer or the plug inserter. So I would suggest getting a little bit higher quality one if you're really going to use the thing, so you don't bust it when you absolutely need it. And they're not that expensive. I think I have one of the best on the market, an ARB, which is an Australian off-road company's, and I think I got it on Amazon for like $38 for the whole kit. Added another 50 plugs for $9 or something.
Very good, very good. So, Tim, was that enough time for you to think of your very best hack, or is that too much pressure for now?
I'll tell you, that's a lot of pressure, and Doc has thrown down the gauntlet. I don't know if I can top, patch your own tire in the end times when the zombies and Mad Max and everything else has risen up against us. I don't think I can top that.
Okay. Well, that is a critical one for sure. Well, very good. That was really fun and really useful. Thank you guys for that. We'll have you on again, Tim. Just let us know when you want to come back on.
Hey, I would be honored. Thank you, gentlemen.
You've been listening to the Survivalist Podcast with Mark Puhali, Doc Montana, and Matt Gould. Brought to you by Survival Cash, Forge Survival Supply, Epic Water Bottles and Filters, and the Perry Blade. Please visit our website, thesurvivalistpodcast.com, for more information.